Won't dry off, keeps flowing.
Won't dry off, keeps flowing. Won't dry off, keeps flowing. Won't dry off, keeps flowing.
Welcome to my closet again. Today I'll be talking about time clauses or zdania czasowe. So what are they? Why didn't I say time sentences? Well, because clauses zdania podrzędne and the actual zdania czasowe are the ones that you can see here in the table on the right. The ones informing you when something is going to happen in the future. So the rule of thumb is never to use future tenses in time clauses about the future. A lot of you will know that the present simple tense is typically used, but not that many will remember that it sometimes can be replaced, or it sometimes even should be replaced with a present perfect tense when you want to put emphasis on the completion of the action described by the time clause before the action described in the main clause can proceed. So she will come with you only after she has finished her breakfast. Yeah, it's just a little bit stronger than after she finishes her breakfast. It leaves no doubts about the fact that she cannot really come with you before she finishes her breakfast. And take a look at these two. These two sentences, slightly more advanced uses of time clauses. So a while clause about the future is also a time clause. So once again, you are not allowed to use a future tense. You have to use the present continuous tense, which is a kind of present equivalent of the future continuous tense that you might have been thinking of using here. So two simultaneous actions, admittedly, both in the future, but it's a time clause. No will. Sorry. I'll be working in the garden while you are watching TV, not while you will be watching TV. And finally, most of good students will associate the future perfect tense with conjunction by the time. But not that many remember that by the time is, once again, a conjunction starting a time clause. So what should follow is a present tense. So I'll have finished that book by the time you come, or possibly also by the time you've come. Mr. Krzyżanowski presents an example similar to that. One employing the present perfect tense in a by the time clause in his book at pages 236 to 137. So if you haven't got it yet, I'd suggest you get it now. Okay, so much for the theory. Now let's go on with the examples. Here's the first one. Kiedy będziesz gotować kiszoną kapustę, ona będzie strasznie wonieć przez pierwsze pół godziny. So when you not will cook or will be cooking now. When you cook or when you are cooking. Now the official answer key does not include the latter answer or the latter variant. I'm not sure why, but the continuous tense sounds quite all right to me. For the first half an hour, okay, so once again, when you cook, it will, sauerkraut, it will smell terrible, not terribly. And for the first half an hour, not for the first half hour. Again, the latter variant is something that you hear out in the streets of London, for example. Nowadays, people just get too lazy to include the extra N. I think we've agreed to use proper English for Mr. Krzyżanowski's sake, haven't we? A multiple choice one here. Now, what does once mean here? Obviously something like kiedy or kiedy już. So once we do get angry, nothing will stop us. You cannot use will. It's a time clause again. So yeah, remember to include once on your list of the conjunctions such as soon as, when, after, before, until, that you can never use a future tense with. Okay, and we've got another of these once usages here. So no separate ceremonies to be organized. The custom is to hand over the prize once the results and a present tense. Once the results are announced, or once the results have been announced, possibly, both of these are present in the official answer key. So, a passive voice sentence here, so that's an additional problem. I wonder what you think about this one. After Ron's death, the only member of the conspiracy who could betray us is his wife Sue. I typically tend to think simple, so my first thought was, if Sue keeps her mouth shut, we are safe. But the thing is, she could betray us today, she could betray us some other time, so as long as Sue keeps her mouth shut, we are safe. Which is, well, is it really a time clause conjunction? Well, Mr. Krzyżanowski certainly seems to think that, because he includes it in the section on time clauses at pages 136 and 7. But to me, it really falls somewhere in between a time clause and a conditional. It doesn't really matter, does it? As long as you know how to use it. So, it's time for the parents to react, because as long as nothing happens, not will happen, so as long as nothing happens, the school will go on brainwashing the kids about the horrors of capitalism. The horrors of capitalism is a turn of phrase that would be so typical of Mr. Krzyżanowski. He is pro-free market economics, or economy. And through many of his examples, it will transpire that he's a real conservative. And it actually pays off to know that once you have qualified for the regional stage or the finals. I'll tell you why. Maybe in some future videos, should I ever have time to make videos about the regional stage or the finals indeed. I mean, never been to the finals with any of my students, but I generally know the ropes, I think. How about this one? If you hope that your application will be chosen before all the others are evaluated or have been evaluated, I was thinking, you are deluding yourself. Oszukujesz się. Now, are evaluated or have been evaluated? Well, to me, the difference is not really huge, but Mr. Krzyżanowski only includes the present perfect version here. So I must be missing something. I mean, my knowledge of the time clauses is definitely incomplete. I can understand how you can use the present perfect tense, but why not the present simple? Can't really tell. And as the fetus might be harmed by certain types of vaccine, women are advised to delay getting pregnant for 2 months after the vaccine is administered or has been administered. Czyli po tym, jak zostanie podana szczepionka. Once again, 2 variants, both the present simple and the present perfect one. So that's exactly the way I like it, because to my mind, at no point do you actually have to use the present perfect. You can when you want to emphasize something, but who's to tell you when you want to emphasize something? It's never that obvious. So, again, 2 variants possible here. Pewien jestem, że ci nie uwierzą, dopóki nie zobaczą niebezpieczeństwa, so I'm sure they won't believe you until they see the danger or until they've seen the danger. And that's the way it should be. Again, to my mind, 2 variants. Why just one? In one of the previous examples, well, I'm struggling to find out. Well, maybe one day I'll get to ask Mr. Krzyżanowski himself. And finally, a by the time clause. So the shotgun presented in the first scene is gonna fire just now. So by the time this absurd system becomes operational, the military will have spent billions of dollars on it. So the time to stop it is now, as tomorrow will be too late. So start working hard on your English Olympics skills because tomorrow will be too late. As Elvis Presley, sorry. I hate when people mispronounce names like Disney and Presley, but I've just done it myself. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, thank you very much for your attention, and I'll see some of you next week, I'm sure. Bye.